Picture this: Lionel Messi, very possibly playing in his last World Cup of his career, walking around a stadium in New Jersey shaking hands with every single Spanish player after the toughest loss of his life. 10 yards away, his own teammate is being pulled off an opponent by the throat. That one split-screen moment sums up how strange Argentina's World Cup 2026 ending really was. In the space of 5 days, Argentina went from a banner celebration that reopened one of football's oldest political arguments straight into a post-final brawl that FIFA is now formally investigating. Add growing anger out of Britain, a wave of fan petitions demanding Argentina get kept out of the next World Cup entirely, and pointed criticism from names like Joe Hart and Wayne Rooney, and you've got one of the messiest tournament endings in recent memory. So, is there any real chance FIFA punishes Argentina hard enough to actually affect 2030, or is most of this just noise? Let's get into it. Here's the full timeline, because the order actually matters. On July 15th, Argentina faced England in the World Cup semifinal in Atlanta. England led for most of the match, but Argentina came back in the closing minutes to win 2-1 and book their spot in the final. That comeback should have been the whole story. Instead, what people remember is what happened right after the final whistle. Several Argentina players, including Lisandro Martinez and Giovanni Lo Celso, took a banner from fans in the crowd reading "Las Malvinas son Argentinas," the Spanish phrase for "the Falklands are Argentine," and held it up on the pitch. It's the exact same slogan that got Argentina fined back in 2014, before a completely different World Cup, so nobody could really call this an accident. Within a day, FIFA confirmed it was opening a disciplinary case, and the British government publicly pushed for a full investigation into what happened. Then, 4 days later, Argentina lost the final itself, 1-0 to Spain on a Ferran Torres goal, and the tournament ended even messier. Nahuel Molina struck Rodri in the chest while running past him in celebration. Argentina's assistant coach clashed with Spain's Dani Olmo, and Leandro Paredes grabbed Eric Garcia by the throat in full view of every camera in the stadium. FIFA has now appointed a disciplinary prosecutor to dig into all of it, on top of the still open banner investigation. Before we get into how FIFA might actually handle two separate cases at once, if you've been following this World Cup's chaos with us, go ahead and hit subscribe. We're tracking every one of these stories as they develop, and there's clearly more coming. Let's start with the banner, since that's really where the diplomatic anger is coming from. The Falklands dispute goes back decades. Argentina and Britain fought a 10-week war over the islands in 1982, and it cost roughly 650 Argentine lives, 255 British lives, and 3 islanders. Argentina still calls the islands Las Malvinas and maintains they belong to it. Britain has controlled them since 1833 and has shown no intention of changing that. FIFA has tried to keep that entire argument off the football pitch. Its rules are specific: no political, religious, or personal messages on the field, and any breach gets punished by the organizing body itself. Argentina already tested that exact rule in 2014, when players held the same banner before a warm-up match just days before that year's World Cup. FIFA fined the federation the equivalent of tens of thousands of dollars for it. So when a nearly identical banner showed up in Atlanta 12 years later, it wasn't really a gray area anymore. It was a repeat offense. The British government reacted almost immediately. A spokesperson for the Prime Minister made it clear that whatever happens with the World Cup trophy, Britain isn't budging on the Falklands question. Argentina's president took the opposite position publicly, defending the players and arguing the gesture reflected how most Argentines genuinely feel, while still acknowledging FIFA would likely step in with some kind of sanction.
FIFA's disciplinary code takes post-match conduct seriously, precisely because it happens after the referee's authority technically ends, which historically made it harder to police in real time. That's why FIFA appointed a dedicated prosecutor under its disciplinary code specifically to dig into this incident, rather than just letting it pass as end-of-game emotion boiling over. The confusion around Paredes' red card didn't help Argentina's case either. In the moment, it looked like he'd been sent off. FIFA later clarified no card had actually been recorded in the official match report. That kind of mixed signal usually means the retrospective disciplinary review becomes the real path to punishment, and arguably that's harder to defend against than a straightforward sending off would have been. It's also worth remembering FIFA doesn't need a red card to hand out a serious punishment after the fact. Back in 2014, Luis Suarez wasn't even carded in real time for biting Giorgio Chiellini during a group stage match. The referee missed it completely. FIFA's disciplinary committee still reviewed the footage afterward and hit him with a 9-match international ban, plus 4 months out of football entirely, calling it conduct that couldn't be tolerated on a World Cup stage. If that's the kind of precedent FIFA's working from, a grabbed throat caught on camera from 3 different angles is not a small thing to explain away. If you're finding this breakdown useful, this is a good moment to subscribe. We go deep on every World Cup controversy like this one, well past the point most channels stop covering it. What makes this whole moment sting more is the contrast sitting right next to it. While his teammates were being pulled apart, Messi, very possibly playing his last World Cup ever, was going around the pitch shaking hands with Spanish players individually. Former England goalkeeper Joe Hart pointed to exactly that contrast publicly, essentially saying Messi was the only one who left the pitch with any class that day. Wayne Rooney made a similar point, framing the chaos as part of a pattern people have seen from Argentina before, not a one-off. Argentina's own coach, Lionel Scaloni, pushed back on that narrative afterward, insisting the team can lose with dignity and that a chaotic few minutes doesn't erase everything the players did to reach the final in the first place. Paredes broke his silence on social media too, though notably without any apology, choosing instead to thank the country and reflect on the pride of the run itself. Whether that response calms things down or adds fuel to the fire probably depends entirely on which fan base you ask. For the players themselves, none of this is just internet noise. A retrospective FIFA suspension, even a short one, could affect eligibility for upcoming international matches. For players in their late 20s or early 30s, like Paredes, Romero, and Martinez, that's not a small thing to risk. There's also reputational fallout that follows players at club level, especially for the ones currently playing in England. For fans, reaction has split fairly cleanly along national lines, which probably isn't surprising given the subject matter. Multiple petitions have appeared online, some gathering thousands of signatures, specifically demanding FIFA keep Argentina out of the next World Cup entirely. On the other side, the Spanish players themselves, the team Argentina actually clashed with, haven't exactly been calling for blood. Spain's own midfielder, Gavi, has publicly said he doesn't think Argentina's players should face further punishment, which is a notable take considering he was on the pitch for some of it. That kind of disagreement, even among the people directly involved in the incident, tells you this isn't a clean-cut situation. For neutral fans just trying to enjoy the tournament, the entire situation has overshadowed what was otherwise a dramatic, hard-fought final and an emotional near miss for a Messi-led Argentina side chasing back-to-back titles. So, what actually happens from here? Let's start with the part almost nobody covering this seems to mention. A genuine ban from the 2030 World Cup isn't really on the table, at least not in the way a lot of these petitions imagine it. Argentina isn't just a normal qualifier for that tournament. Along with Uruguay and Paraguay, Argentina is one of 3 nations hosting a centenary match in 2030, marking 100 years since the very first World Cup, which Uruguay hosted and won back in 1930. Those 3 countries were handed automatic spots, specifically as ceremonial hosts, completely separate from the usual qualification process. Stripping Argentina of that would mean unwinding a hosting arrangement FIFA has already committed to publicly. That's a far bigger, messier decision than fining a federation or suspending a couple of players, and there's no real precedent for FIFA reversing a hosting commitment over player conduct. That doesn't mean FIFA has 0 options here. Financial penalties are the most likely outcome overall, and given how many separate incidents happened this time around, a fine larger than 2014's wouldn't be a surprising outcome. individual suspensions for specific players are also realistic, especially for Paredes, given the throat-grabbing moment was the single most damaging image to come out of the entire final. The worst-case scenario for Argentina probably isn't a tournament ban at all. It's a lengthy suspension for multiple senior players heading towards 2030, at a point when most of this current core group would already be aging out of serious contention anyway. The best case is simply a substantial fine and a stern warning, not unlike what happened back in 2014. Quick one before we wrap up. If you want to actually know the moment FIFA hands down its ruling on either of these cases, subscribing is the easiest way to not miss it. Either way, expect this to take a while. FIFA's investigations rarely move quickly, and with the tournament already finished, there's a lot less pressure on them to rush a decision out. Put it all together, and here's what you're really looking at. 2 separate FIFA investigations, a reignited diplomatic argument between 2 governments that's over 40 years old, a wave of fan anger pointed in every direction, and a genuine sporting achievement, back-to-back World Cup finals for Argentina that's barely getting talked about because of everything surrounding it. Whatever FIFA ultimately decides, it probably won't satisfy anyone completely. The petitions asking for a full ban are likely asking for something FIFA structurally can't deliver, given Argentina's locked-in hosting status for 2030. But a simple fine probably won't satisfy the British government or the fans furious about what happened to Eric Garcia either. So here's what I want to know from you. Do you think FIFA actually hits Argentina with individual player suspensions this time around? Or does this end the same way it did in 2014, with a fine and a strongly worded statement? And separately, which controversy do you think does more lasting damage to Argentina's reputation, the banner or the brawl? Drop your prediction in the comments below. I read every single one. This story is still developing, and knowing how FIFA usually operates, it's not wrapping up anytime soon. See you in the next one.